My name is Daniel.
My name is Daniel, and I'm going to be talking about some books that I have read recently. This is a new channel of mine, just a random idea I had where I don't have a lot of people, know a lot of people who read the same books as me, um, or that I can really talk to in person about the books that been reading, and I kind of want a place to just rant, and there's no other place than the void of YouTube. Anyways, first book I read this year um, was a book by the same author who wrote my favorite book of all time, and that is Cormac McCarthy. I started reading it, and it was really good. For those who don't know anything about No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy, uh, it follows a man called Llewellyn who discovers uh, drug trade gone bad, and finds a ton of money during that whole thing, and ends up being hunted by a sociopath, psychopath, serial killer dude named Sugar, and I had to think, I had to make sure I was saying that right, um, and some other people as well, and that want their money back from that drug deal. And yeah, it's if you've seen the movie, it doesn't venture too wildly far off from the book. Um, but obviously, if you're a fan of Cormac McCarthy's writing or have never read it, it's definitely a treat. Even if you've seen the movie, I would still recommend reading this book. Lasting impressions the book left on me. It wasn't as spiritual as I'd hoped it had been. The Road for me, and I'm gonna have to compare it to The Road because it's the only thing I've read by McCarthy. It was a very spiritual book. It really touched me, and it made a lasting impression on me. And this one really didn't. It felt like I was reading a movie. Um, it was beautifully told. The story captured me. The characters were very interesting, especially Shakur. I found myself being worried with how much I related to some of the things he said, um, which was a little disturbing, but maybe that was the intent of that. It felt more like if you want a good, entertaining read, then this is a great book to try out. I move on to my the second book. I'm going to be covering only two books in this video, and this was a book that I bought from my local library. At my local library they have this wall of I'm guessing they're books they don't want anymore, and they sell them for softbacks 50 cents a piece, and hardbacks $1 a piece. And for a while I would go there and just like buy up books, and I still have a ton of them that I haven't read. And so after I read No Country for Old Men, instead of going off to buy yet another book that I would have to add to a list, I shuffled through um, the stack I had and picked this one out. So the book is The Catcher in the Rye. Um, I picked this one up from my stack and actually bought it mainly because I heard Catcher in the Rye. I know that book sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure that's a classic, and I love the minimalist um, cover that it had. I loved old used books that you could tell have been read and used and abused, and it's beautiful. Um, I knew nothing about this book. I did not read this book in high school. I say that because every time I ask someone, "Have you ever read Catcher in the Rye?" Their response was either no or sounds familiar. Is either I don't think so. Sounds familiar, and I think I read that in high school. Um, so I knew nothing going into this book, what it was about. So it follows Holden Caulfield, and I it's pretty much him telling a story of him dropping out of high school yet again. I think it was his third or fourth, and being out in the town for a few nights. I think it was like 2 nights actually, maybe more, by himself, and just kind of getting into shenanigans. And yeah, he goes through a lot of things in those couple days. Lasting impressions. My favorite thing about this book was Holden himself and how introspective he was, and how what's the word, transparent he was with his thoughts and feelings. This was a young kid who was struggling with anxiety and depression and aimlessness. He was also very angry um, at a lot of people, which I think is my personal opinion is when you're angry at everybody else, um, you're usually angry at yourself for some reason. And I think that is the case for this guy. Um, but yeah, I found myself relating to him in a way that I was kind of bummed to relate to him. I can see why they recommend this book to high schoolers, or why someone would be required to read this in high school, because it very much is a coming of age story. The thing I related to, one thing I related to a lot was his aimlessness. I'm definitely not in high school anymore, but I still very much often feel very aimless. I don't really have a huge drive to do one specific thing, at least like career wise, at least not anymore. Another thing I related to a lot that was maybe not related. I'm gonna be honest. I related to a lot was his anger and judgment towards other people. Um, I have found myself many times, obviously not recently because we're um, freaking quarantined, but I have found myself in the past being out and about and just really judging people and being angry at them for really stupid reasons, right? I overhear something, I see a certain type of body language, or um, see a way a person is dressed, and the way he describes uh, his anger towards certain people and judgment is phonies in this book. He uses the word phony a lot, and I think that really captures kind of my anger, right? Eventually, he started. He's pretty much like this through the whole book, and eventually it got to me. It made me think, dang, this dude is obviously dealing with something inside, and seeing that, and also his anger and judgment towards other people, it made me think maybe I would be a lot happier if I stopped judging people for um being in the Instagram race, or liking pop mainstream music, or what have you. I mean, those are just a few couple things. I'm sure you guys have your own judgments of others, but it was just, I mean, I've always kind of been told and known that I shouldn't judge anybody, right? But that's a lot harder to do up in here. It's really easy to not say those judgments and to gossip about people and to talk down to somebody. Like, that's never been a huge problem for me, but it's the internal judgment, the feeling, the tearing somebody down in here so I could feel superior, you know? Um, and it's not good for the soul, and this was a huge reminder of that, and it made me really think, during but also after, just it does me no good when I am get angry at other people and judge other people. All it does is make me sick inside, you know. All it does is rob me of happiness, that rob me of my own inner happiness and serenity. Um, and So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Um, it challenged me, and it held up a mirror to myself. And so, would I recommend this book? I definitely would if you haven't read it. If you read it when you were a young lad in high school, and it's been many, many years since then, and you don't remember anything about it, maybe give it another shot. So, anyways, without rambling too much, uh, those are two books that I've read in this new year. I just recently finished Brave New World, and I'm going to review that book as well, but I'm going to save that for my next video. Um, and right now I'm currently reading, I just started this morning actually, The Idiot by, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, I can't say it. I watched a YouTube video this morning on how to say it, and I still can't do it. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you made it all the way through, I encourage you guys to maybe pick up those books and read them. And if not, read something else, because there are a lot of great books out there. And I will see you guys next time.